Good evening. Good evening. Good evening. Don't want me calling names out down there. Good evening, welcome. I'll call the Wednesday, March 12th meeting to order. If we could please rise for a moment of silence and then the Pledge of Allegiance, led by Councilmember Dodd. Thank you.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, Ms. Williams.
Mayor McPartlin.
Here.
Vice Mayor Jones.
Here.
Councilmember Dixon.
Here.
Councilmember Dodd.
Here.
And Councilmember Nunn.
Here.
Thank you.
Any agenda modification, Mr. Benton? I think you had a couple.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So I would like to request to pull item 12A and then also to move item 11A up to before the public hearings. So in between committee reports and appointments and public hearings, move item 11A, if that is okay with the council.
Anybody have a problem with that?
No, Mr. Mayor, I move approval of the agenda as modified.
Second.
Roll call. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. Please accept the proclamations. First one for Dr. Moore. I got them all. Dr. Moore. I remember one of the first times we met.
Oh, boy.
On a Zoom call, a long time ago. And I remember there was a lot of other craziness going on. And I said to you, you can't wait till this guy gets to do what he wants to do, what he was brought up here for. And the guy has been extremely successful in reading. I mean, everything to do with school in Indian River County. I couldn't be happier, but you've been phenomenal. So this is a proclamation honoring Dr. Moore for 2025 Superintendent of the Year, whereas the Sebastian City Council is proud to recognize Dr. Moore for his exceptional leadership and achievements in education, culminating in his recognition as the 2025 Superintendent of the Year, 2025 National Superintendent of the Year finalist, 2024 Consortium of Florida Education Foundation's Star Superintendent, and whereas Dr. Moore's tenure as Superintendent of Schools in Indian River County has been marked by unprecedented academic progress, with the district's state ranking improving by 29 positions from 38th in 2018-19 school year to 9th place in 2023-2024 academic year, the highest rate of improvement of any district in Florida during this period. And whereas under Dr. Moore's leadership, state assessment results demonstrated that students in the district outperformed state averages in all tested areas, and the percentage of schools earning a school grade of A or B soared from 47% in 2018-19 to an extraordinary 95% in 2023-2024. And whereas Dr. Moore's efforts also contributed to the district's remarkable high school graduation rate, which reached 96% in the 2023-2020. I give you a couple of, correct me, and that was 4th in the state of Florida. The other 3 states probably have a total of about 200 people between them, so there's a huge difference in that.
That is correct.
Okay. Whereas Dr. Moore's leadership, dedication, and transformative impact on public education have earned him respect and admiration across the state of Florida, as well as in his own community, where his results stand as a powerful example of what can be achieved when a leader combines vision, strategy, and steadfast commitment to educational excellence. Now therefore be it proclaimed that the Sebastian City Council extends its heartfelt congratulations to Dr. Moore for being named the 2025 Florida Superintendent of the Year, 2025 National Superintendent of the Year finalist, and CFEF Star Superintendent, and for his outstanding contributions to the academic and financial success of the district and the well-being of all students in Indian River County.
All right. Thank you. So couldn't be any prouder to accept this proclamation, and I accept it on behalf of all of the teachers, the principals, the support staff, our board members, Terry Berenborg, who is here, board chair, who do this work on a daily basis. And I may be the individual who is selected to be the state superintendent or a national finalist, one of 4 of 15,000 different superintendents across the nation. But ultimately, it is a community coming together, putting a stake in the ground and saying, we are at all costs going to be, do whatever needs to be done to act in the best interest of children. And Indian River County is on the map across the nation. And I didn't realize that until I went last week to the the National Association for Superintendents. Over 5,000 people were there, and the opportunity that I had to share our collective success just was absolutely overwhelming to me. So what we are doing in this community is absolutely outstanding. We have really done outstanding work, but yet there's still work to be done. We are in the midst of creating our new district strategic plan, and we are really listening to what our community wants, and our goal is to reinvent what public education looks like, to be the answer for every single family in our community, to know when you step into a school within the school district of Indian River County, you have a certified teacher. You have standards that ensure that students will be able to compete across the nation in terms of what they're learning in their classrooms. And when they graduate, that diploma absolutely means something. So thank you for taking the time to acknowledging me and my team. Thank you, sir. Thank you. You want to know it? Oh, absolutely.
All right, next is a proclamation for the Moonshot moment. Marie, you coming up by yourself, or you bringing part of the team here? Hi, Barbara. All right, this is a proclamation designating the city of Sebastian as a Moonshot community, whereas literacy is the cornerstone of individual success and community prosperity, and the city of Sebastian aspires to contribute to making Indian River County a national leader in literacy. And whereas our children are our most valuable resource, and their early years are crucial for building the foundation for lifelong learning and success, as brain development is most rapid during this time. And whereas early literacy is essential as children transition from learning to read, birth to 3rd grade, to reading to learn. Children who are not proficient readers by the end of 3rd grade face significant academic challenges. And whereas Indian River County's commitment to the Moonshot initiative has yielded significant progress, including record high 3rd grade reading scores, an A school district rating, and state level recognition for our superintendent. And whereas achieving the Moonshot goal requires a collaborative, community-wide effort, as approximately 46% of children enter kindergarten unprepared. We must support families as their children's first teachers, providing them with the necessary tools and resources. And whereas March is National Reading Month, providing an opportunity to emphasize the importance of literacy for all ages. Now therefore be it resolved that the Sebastian City Council hereby proclaims March as National Reading Month and designates the city of Sebastian as a Moonshot community. We recognize the vital contributions of all stakeholders to our community's literacy efforts and pledge to continue working together to make Indian River County a model for literacy, ensuring that every child has the opportunity to succeed.
Passed your reading test. Do we have the video? So video speaks 1,000 words better than we will. So there's a documentary being made of the work here, the schools and the community, and this is
no
a
longer
6-minute
hidden.
overview.
Literacy is a huge problem in America. Throwing money at it hasn't solved it, and expecting the schools to do it alone has only made it worse.
Only 35% of our nation's third graders are proficient at reading. We're leaving a whole lot of kids behind.
The system really wasn't designed to look after all kids.
When we don't get them at the right time, society pays.
It's easy to point out the failures, but who is out there doing something about it? There's a county in Florida that's taking the literacy crisis head on. Indian River County's kids were struggling, and their families and schools were stuck in a harmful cycle. Too many of their kids weren't thriving.
We can no longer, as a country, expect the American dream to be available for those kids in today's economy.
We all want our community to thrive. We want our country to thrive. But it all starts with literate children.
And these two moms could not get their kids reading.
We both had boys who were struggling in school, and having it be so hard for them and nobody to help me was awful.
And with money, you can go get tutors, you can bend over backwards, but it's not fun. And without money, God save them.
In response, the Learning Alliance was started.
We were just two crazy moms and a philanthropist looking for a place to bring money and solutions.
And they set a goal for their community.
Because Liz said,
I said, well, the research will point to 95% of our population can be proficient readers. Let's set an easy goal. Let's dial it back a little bit and go with 90%.
With their county around 45% and the wealth disparity, this was an ambitious goal.
They probably think we're nuts, right?
We are.
But they were inspired by JFK's call to reach the moon with no known path, so they called it their Moonshot moment.
We choose to go to the moon, not because they are easy, but because they are hard. Because that goal will serve to organize and measure the best of our energies and skills.
It's a big, ambitious goal. Nobody knows how to get there.
But the community adopted the Learning Alliance's vision.
So to have this Moonshot goal,
it's all hands on deck. A major movement in our community.
It's unified, everyone.
We break barriers.
We want to have 90% literacy by 3rd grade.
It could be life-changing if we crack the code.
will change everything. It'll change a child, a family, the community, businesses, everything.
They bet on the idea that pouring tons of resources into the prenatal to 3rd grade development of their kids would trickle up through their families and schools, ultimately transforming their community.
And so we've been advocating, what do we need to do in our homes? What do we need to do in our community? And what do we need to do in our schools?
They scoured the country for best practices. Liz completed her master's in learning disabilities, and they started piloting in-school, after-school, summer school, and teacher development programs.
It wasn't, let's just do a program that moves, 20 kids. We wanted something bigger and more.
They made progress with the support of school district, but were having a hard time scaling enough to reach their goal.
It's scary. It's scary to say 90%, right? You don't know how many times people have thrown mud in our face and said, oh, you're not there, you failed. And you have to persevere through that and say that the vision and the goal is worthy of us failing multiple times until we figure it out.
And then the school district made a big change. They hired Dr. David Moore as their superintendent.
We will truly act in the best interest of children. Jam the torpedoes, go ahead and fire me. We have to change. We're not going to lower our expectation. And the day that I have to sacrifice that is the day I'm out.
He was drawn to the district because of the community's effort and was aligned with the Learning Alliance's mission.
I'm going to invest in K1 and 2, so by the time they get to 3rd and beyond, I can change the experience by making sure they never get behind.
He brought his system change skills and a new culture to the district, and the school system bought in.
It's all about what is best for students. We're not going to worry about adult comfort. We're not going to worry about whether we like it.
Public education many times has failed our communities because we have been adult-centered.
They put their kids at the center of everything they do.
If we all have this collective goal of everyone being literate by the end of 3rd grade, what are we waiting for? Like, let's go now.
And the collective effort is really starting to pay off. In the last 4 years, their district grade has increased 29 state rankings. Their performance showed the most improvement in the state of Florida over the last 3 years, and have been a grade A school district the last 2 years with a 96% high school graduation rate. Since 2015, their Title I elementary schools have improved dramatically. And while the state's non-charter third grade reading scores have dropped 3 percentage points, their scores have risen 5 points over that same time. The last 13 years, this community has been recognized as a national pace setter by the Campaign for Grade Level Reading. This is still a story in progress, and they're not to their goal yet, but something special is happening here.
We can do hard things. We can do hard things.
It's a story of a unique and multifaceted public-private partnership that has put years of effort and money into finding solutions that make real impact with even the most challenging elementary students and schools. And now they want to share everything they've learned in hopes that other communities with less resources can use their hard-earned lessons to take this crisis head-on themselves.
Something unique is happening here in the Indian River school system, but it doesn't have to be unique. Everyone can do this work. Everyone can engage in these kinds of conversations to experience this community success that Indian River County is experiencing.
So this takes an entire community, and and Dr. Moore enabled us to go from pilots to scale. So more work to be done, but the documentary series is coming out this summer and inspiring other people. What does it take to organize a community in schools around achieving unparalleled outcomes for our kids? So thank you guys for making this a proclamation, because we go to other communities and they come here and are astonished that our city councils and our county commissions and our hospital districts are all proclaiming themselves Moonshot leaders. So thank you for your support.
Sure.
So this is a community, so Mr. Seymour and Mr. Hart, we'd love for everybody to be in this picture, because this is not in our school district. You guys, I thought were already coming up. And again, thank you very much. So we appreciate, every year Sebastian has been such a wonderful partner in all of this work, and it's what's getting us this recognition and moving forward. So thank you.
All right, thank you, everybody. Oh, great. All right, finally, we have a proclamation for Procurement Month. Ms. Graham. All right. Whereas the City of Sebastian's public procurement professional plays a major role by ensuring the greatest return of price and value on taxpayer dollars, and whereas in addition to the responsibility of purchasing goods and services, public procurement professionals work to improve purchasing processes, use new technology to increase efficiency, and promote principles such as accountability, ethics, impartiality, professionalism, service, and transparency. And whereas the National Institute of Governmental Purchasing, known as NIGP, the Institute for Public Procurement, has designated the month of March as Procurement Month to expand awareness of the purchasing professionals' role to governmental officials, the public, business, and corporate leaders. And whereas Professional Buyers Day on March 13th is the day we highlight the purchasing professionals' role to governmental officials, the public, business, and corporate leaders. Now, therefore, I, Bob McParland, Mayor of the City of Sebastian, do hereby proclaim the month of March as Procurement Month and March 13th as Professional Buyers Day in the City of Sebastian, and encourage all community members to show their support and expand the awareness of the procurement professionals' role to government officials, the general public, businesses, and corporate leaders.
I just want to say thank you to everyone. I'm truly honored to accept this proclamation, and I hope everyone will join me tomorrow in celebrating Professional Buyers Day.
Thank you, Jessica. All right, that leads us up to brief announcements. Mr. Jones?
Yes, sir. Thank you very much. We have River Days Festival this weekend at Riverview Park. This Friday, March 14th, it will be from 3 p.m. to 8 p.m. This Saturday, March 15th, from 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. And Sunday, March 16th, from 10 a.m. to 8 p.m. Also, Saturday, March 22nd, Sebastian River Art Club show at Riverview Park from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m.
Thank you, sir. That'll bring us up to 11A, presentation and City Council consideration for approval of the City of Sebastian's 3-year strategic plan objectives and action plans that align with the Council's established goals. Mr. Benton?
Do you want to do that before public input, or you want to have public input
We'll do
first?
that. I thought you moved that one up.
Okay, that's fine. All right. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So I have Dr. Saviak and Dr. Levy have been our consulting firm leading us through this process, which started about a year ago at this point. And here tonight, you all had established in November our mission, vision, values, and goals. And based on that, staff has worked to identify objectives and action plans to implement the goals that you identified. So I'll turn it over to Dr. Saviak and Dr. Levy. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We know that you've read through the full PowerPoint that included all of the mission, vision, values, goals, objectives, and then their specific implementation plans. So I'll just be hitting the highlights here, and we will split it up between myself and Dr. Levy here. We know why we do strategic planning is we perform as we plan, and success and failure are not a coincidence or an accident, but they're well-planned events. It involves identifying threats that we mitigate or avoid, and then opportunities that we optimize. It enables us as an organization to align our operations and organization with our objectives for their successful achievement. It allows us to design the future that we would like to envision for our communities. It enables us to clarify, optimize, make the most efficient use of our limited resources. It inspires and enthuses those who are on the team because they know what the vision and the mission and the goals, the objectives are. It also can help attract resources, just like going to a bank with a business plan. People want to invest in success. We also strengthen public confidence by utilizing the tool of strategic planning, especially when they start seeing the outcomes and results, because it is all about providing those outcomes and results for the community. It enables us to be proactive and plan ahead and drive the future rather than being reactive, and enable us to a very important ability in the 21st century, and that is to successfully start and lead change. So real quick, in terms of the research process, it was multi-stage, specifically sequenced, ordered to fulfill specific purposes. Multiple methods were employed. It enabled us to look at a wide range of diverse sources of data, both quantitative and qualitative. We conducted organizational and community research, and we detail all those sources on the next slide. Conducted interviews with the mayor, the city council, and the executive team. There was an electronic survey, which we had excellent participation of the entire city workforce. And these all can identify and illuminate major recurring themes that get cross-validated by different sources of data pointing us in the same direction. I'd also add that there were multiple opportunities for the public to participate, whether it was coming to the orientation, coming to one of the workshops, the community meetings that you organized and held here, even electronic participation. We created a situation where they could register their views on mission, vision, values, and goals electronically. This is a very research-driven process, and we capitalized on a number of valuable sources of research about the city and the city government. As Mr. Benton said, this has been a year-long process, which is pretty standard for strategic planning, because we're trying to arrive at decisions that are going to guide us for a number of years into the future. And so this involved research in the city and city government, and conducting interviews with both the elected and administrative leadership. This comprehensive process also enabled us to have several different city council workshops where, for instance, you provided direction on vision, mission, values, and goals. We did community meetings and also provided opportunities for public feedback outside of those meetings. The administrative leadership worked with us to develop specific objectives for the plan that will be operationalized and achieved as their implementation plans are fulfilled. As I mentioned, we did an electronic survey of the entire city workforce, the community meetings, and then different workshops. It was a comprehensive process. Once again, you're trying to facilitate as much transparency, accountability, innovation, participation as you can. The goals and the objectives. The objectives you'll see, as you know, City Council, are grouped by goals. And 7 goals were identified, selected by the City Council as a good fit for the city and commensurate with where the city would like to head for the future. They're pretty comprehensive in terms of they reach everything, whether it's services, programs, capital projects for the community, whether it's enhancing, strengthening internal capacity of the organization to effectively execute. So with the objectives, they're grouped by goal. First objective being, increasing recreational activities and programs to best serve the community. A second, for mapping out how to best achieve compliance with the septic to sewer mandate of House Bill 1379, achieving an 85% code compliance rate with some specific strategies and tactics that would enable us to realize that outcome. Making the a big focus on customer service and a culture of customer service for the IT department. And once again, the implementation plans summarize the key elements of what's required to be done for each of these objectives. Maybe they're, depending on the specific objective, maybe more detailed implementation plans could be added in the future. Offering a virtual building inspection program. Improving the time and turnaround to enhance customer satisfaction with a building permitting and plan review. Creating, which I know is already underway, your leadership training program, which every local government in America should be doing right now. So many of these are best practices and model policies and programs that we know are empirically validated and will produce success if we do them. Also with a focus on succession planning. Starting a Citizens Academy, which would inform and engage citizens and make sure that they are fully informed about all aspects of their city government. Once again, another best practice model program.
Looking at the regulatory structure to incentivize private sector delivery of workforce housing. A pilot project. Strategic plans are excellent opportunities to innovate, and pilot projects are a wonderful way to innovate. And so with the Easy Street Pond pilot project, the major focus on reducing those nutrient loads in your bodies of water here. And that can strengthen and enhance water quality. Public safety in terms of reducing crime by 10%. By the way, all of America, I'm sure your chief's briefed you, has switched over from UCR to NIBRS, so that's been a major change in American law enforcement with with how data is now going to be aggregated, reported, classified. In terms of the roads and streets, ensuring that all those city roads and streets fall within that good range or better on an annual basis, which is also a good way to achieve cost savings and reduce unnecessary expenditures on capital projects. There were two at the airport. One, increasing airport leasing revenue. Objective 14 for efficiency and service delivery, as well as enhancing tax base. Taking a look jointly with the county at enclaves and how to best deal with them. Another one on the airport revenues. This, instead of hangars, it's transient traffic. The folks who fly in, park, and head on to what else they're doing. So each of the action plans, as all of you know, because they're in the fuller document, they also contain the elements of personnel, resources required, timeline, metrics. All of these, we're just highlighting the objective, strategy, and tactics. I'm not going to go through all of those on each one of these. But for the objective 1, in terms of increasing the community events and recreational offerings for the community, is the strategy and the tactics to ensure that is achieved. Second objective, achieving that compliance with House Bill 1379, the septic to sewer, and how to best obtain that through specific actions, tactics, and partnerships. Code compliance, achieving an 85% code compliance rate among citizens before they come to a hearing with a magistrate. And that involves a number of strategies and tactics to achieve that positive outcome. Once again, you're seeing a lot of things focused on efficiency, customer service, innovation, effectiveness, and optimizing the performance of the city government. I'll turn this over to Dr. Levy, and he will be heading through the next set of goals as well as their specific objectives.
Thank you.
Good evening, council members. As Dr. Saviak walked you through the objectives, I'm going to take you through the balance of the plan by goal. And goal two, improving organizational efficiency. There were 4 objectives. We talked about your IT department really focusing on internal customer satisfaction. Lots of organizations we see have, issues, not that this one does, but the organizations have issues with getting projects done and getting services out. I commend your staff for, taking on this task of, measuring how their internal customers view their performance. And that's at the basis of this particular strategy, and that is definitely a commendable objective and certainly will improve organizational efficiency. The next objective has to do with timeliness of response for customer satisfaction in IT. This is the continuation of the tactics, if you will. There's a very detailed plan that comes along with this particular objective. The 5th objective is as Dr. Saviak mentioned earlier, the virtual building inspection program. Again, another efficiency, improving organizational efficiency, another tool using technology to perhaps create more efficiency in delivering building inspections. Every customer in the building department wants to get through, done quickly, efficiently, and again, commendable to your staff to look at using technology to improve the way they do business, and that's the basis for this particular action plan. Number 6, this is a comprehensive look at your entire building permit and plan review process. And organizations need to do this from time to time. Sometimes we get a little complacent about the way things work, and if we've always done it that way. This is a intentional objective and strategy to self-evaluate the existing process, take a look at it, and sort of map it and see where there are ways for efficiencies and improving customer service. And so that is another tool or another objective to improving your organizational efficiency. And finally, under organizational efficiency, the leadership training program that Dr. Saviak spoke about is these are the kinds of things that smart organizations do, looking at their workforce, understanding what skills and talent exists there, and developing leadership over time. It will cut down on losses of continuity in the long term and improve the performance of the organization. Those are some lengthy and very descriptive tactics associated with that. Goal 3 is preserving your hometown feel and coastal charm. I think there's one objective here, the Citizens Academy, starting with reviewing model programs from other places and designing one using inventorying your staff, what kind of questions they get, what are people really interested in terms of how the city functions and operates, and I think you'll have great success with this, and this objective commits to producing this academy by February of 2026. Supporting smart, sustainable growth. We have 2 objectives, and here's the first of the action plans. This regulatory structure to identify where you can sort of get out of the way of the ability for the private sector to deliver affordable housing. Evaluating your entire regulatory structure from your comp plan to your land development regulations, your block grant programs, setting yourselves up for success. Doesn't mean you're the delivery entity that will deliver the affordable housing. You're not building it, you may not be financing it, but this is looking at your regulatory structure to make sure that you're not the obstacle in having affordable housing being delivered. And I think that's a smart approach for Sebastian. And the other objective under smart sustainable growth is, as Dr. Saviak mentioned, the pilot project to test how you can improve your stormwater system and eliminate nutrients and improve your water quality. Nothing better than, these are expensive projects, and taking one and seeing if the approach will work. If you do the proof of concept and are successful, you have a template for doing it in other areas, and you can systematically over time improve your stormwater quality. Moving on to goal 5, high level of public safety. There was really one fairly simple but hard to execute on, but I think the chief has laid out a plan to do that, is reducing crime by 10% by December of 2027. Lots of tactics here, lots of detail about how they're going to go about doing that. And of course, there's much more, as Dr. Saviak mentioned, in terms of, in the full plan, resources identified, schedules, person responsible for managing each one of these particular action plans. There's a continued list of the tactics associated with that. Maintaining fiscal responsibility was, I recall, one of the important objectives of this council, one of the important goals of this council, going back to developing the mission, vision, values, and goals. I recall our conversation. It was very important to all of you. And using the city's road system as as a first effort to improve fiscal responsibility as well as improve the condition of your roadway. I think your Public Works Department has laid out a plan here to effectively do that and has a very tangible measure to determine whether it's successful or not with regard to the PCI index. And finally, encouraging economic development. Dr. Saviak mentioned there's two airport ones. One is increasing airport leasing revenue by 18% by December 2028. It's easy enough to measure. You have a starting point, and when you get to December 2028, you should have met or exceeded an 18% increase in revenue, and there's the plan to go ahead and do that. Always in terms of the future of the city and the future economic development is looking at your jurisdictional boundary and seeing if there's opportunities to expand, eliminate enclaves, increase your tax base, and in working with your staff, there's some very concrete ideas here about how to go about doing that. One of the first steps is understanding what your cost structure is for property owners as compared in the city compared to the unincorporated area, and we've already started some of that work. And finally, the last objective in encouraging economic development is increasing airport revenues by increasing transient traffic. Again, another fairly not easy to do, but easy to measure performance, and that's what this plan is about. It's easy to measure, a lot of specificity on how to go about doing that. And so we get to the end of the goals and objectives, and as you know, there's a lot more detail for each one of these things, but one of the most important things is how are you going to execute on this plan? And you know, just adopting the plan is really only the beginning. It's not the end. It's the start of a new approach, and assigning responsibility for a single individual for delivering on this plan is most appropriate. While each one of the objectives has a lead person, as you've seen in the expanded plan, there's a person identified on your executive team that is responsible for that particular objective. The overall responsibility of this execution of this plan falls to your city manager. That's our recommendation. And of course, in our discussion with Brian, this plan is hitting at the right time. You're going into budget process. This is the time where you take this plan and you work it into your budget, and you should see, as you go through budget workshops, you should see the elements of this plan starting to work its way into your budget so that you are effectively implementing this plan, bringing it to life. And then in terms of performance, we suggest a regular performance report from this, how we're doing, progress report. Perhaps that's quarterly. That's really up to the manager to decide, but we have recommended a systematic reporting system that lets you know where you stand on every objective in terms of performance of the overall strategic plan. It's been wonderful working with your staff. This has come together remarkably, starting with you and setting the tone and setting the direction for us to be a catalyst. We really are just facilitators. This is really the staff's plan, and it's been a really very successful, in our view, very successful exercise. We think we've captured the essence of what you were looking for in terms of direction. Doesn't mean you can't come back and modify this plan, add new objectives, take some out if they're not really working, but we think we're off to a great start. And so we want to thank you for that, and we're here to answer any questions that you might have.
Thank you, sir. Council, any questions for Dr. Levy or Dr. Saviak?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, I don't have a question for the two gentlemen. They've done a great job. I just want to congratulate our staff. I've been through this process before, and it's not as easy as it appears. And getting to this list in which they've actually committed themselves to accomplish certain goals and tactics is an extremely difficult thing. We're pretty short-staffed, quite frankly, as a city. We've got a small number of staff per 100 residents, and they've done a great job in putting together what they put together on this, I think. I would like to recommend that it would be appropriate during this budget process to try to identify budget items related back to specific
actions within this plan. So when we look at the budget, we can see, well, this is goal 4, action 8, or whatever that this money stands for, or this money is being used for. I know not all items in the budget are going to tie back to specific things here, but it might be appropriate to see that. That way we can see the budget impact of that, especially if we're talking about spending money on things like a pilot project, for example. Where's that money coming from? Should the council agree that we have to spend that money, you know, and so forth, just primary some information from that. But I think our staff's done a great job. I think our 2 consultants have done a great job. It was a pleasure working with them from the first day that we got together in that conference room on the 2nd floor and try to get through the process. And so I just want to congratulate everybody on this. It's a difficult thing. The next step is actually harder than putting the plan together, though. And that's making sure that we execute the plan and that next year we modify the plan so we have new objectives and new goals and not new goals possibly, maybe, but not necessarily, but new tasks associated with those, because we're going to complete task. And that means that next year as we go into the budget cycle, we have to have new tasks to go with that. And I don't know whether the city manager might come back and ask the council to provide him some funds to bring back assistance in putting that together, or whether he feels comfortable he can do that with his staff without having some assistance to come in. But I would certainly be supportive of whatever needs to be done to make that happen, because the second year of a strategic plan is the time in which it either becomes a book on the shelf that nobody opens or becomes a document that people use to drive the future. And what we want in the city is for it to be a document that drives the future of the city. So thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Any other council members? Thank you, guys. I mean, this is the plan. Ultimately, then you'll be understanding the why behind everything that comes. And I know Brian's on top of it. He's going to learn it, know it, live it, right?
Yes, sir.
Right.
Dynamic and forward-thinking like our staff. Kudos to everybody.
So, Mr. Mayor, if I could ask, if we could get a motion for approval recommending this going forward, because we will come back with a formal document that memorializes the strategic plan if you all approve what we presented tonight.
And Mr. Mayor, I move approval of the strategic plan as submitted this evening.
Second.
All right, got a motion and a second. Anyone from the public want to speak on the strategic plan? Anyone on Zoom?
Not this time.
Roll call, Ms. Williams.
Vice Mayor Jones?
Yes.
Councilmember Dixon?
Yes.
Councilmember Dodd?
Yes.
Councilmember Nunn?
Yes.
And Mayor McPartlin?
Yes.
Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you all. Thank you very much.
We have thoroughly enjoyed working with all of you and your team.
Thank you.
All right. All right, this leads us up to public input. Anyone who wants to speak in front of the council on something that's not on the agenda, now's the time.
We're nervous.
Oh.
Say hi. You know,
Hi.
I used to. You want to do this, Mike? So you can stand down here and then I'll have to look at you.
Just look at her when you talk and pretend like it's a private conversation.
I used to work with him.
Did?
Yeah. Just read it. She wrote it a couple weeks ago for you guys.
My name is Tabitha. I don't feel safe because people are going too fast. There are 17 kids that play outside, and me and my mom were walking, and someone was going so fast that they almost hit me and scared me, and I did not like it. And how would you feel if your kid almost got hit and you would not like it, right? No one would. Please lower the speed limit and put speed bumps.
Thank you, Tabitha.
Can I?
All right.
Can I? Come?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
State your name, please.
I will. So my name's Christy. I'm 5 generations Indian River County, so to say I know the people of this town is an understatement. So we visited the speeding in Sebastian, specifically my street, beginning of February, but I had to go to Chicago, so I couldn't follow up. The residential changes from 30, which is excessive in neighborhoods, to 20, and some silent speed bumps on those cut-through streets. Florida Statute 316.183 allots
The county or municipality may set maximum speed limit to 20 to 25 miles per hour on local streets and highways after an investigation determines that such limit is reasonable. It is not necessary to conduct a separate investigation for each residence district. I spoke to FDOT and other state and local agencies that have confirmed that this is not a difficult process. You are 7 times less likely to die if you are hit at 20 miles per hour versus 30. And this increases 10 times if you are 60 years or older. In a distance of 20 miles per hour, a car can stop versus 30 miles per hour, they can only stop to go 24. The people on my street are not asking permission. You need to ensure our community safety. As we could see, we're building. So we need to ensure the safety of our children in our community. Lake Drive is already 25. There doesn't need to be another investigation. So the people, to further add the safety of our street, we have an epileptic child on my street that plays and should be allowed to play. We also have a child that has muscular dystrophy on my street that should be allowed to play outside without fear. I have a neighborhood that supports them and every single child in my neighborhood. Now we need a common sense decision to drop the speed limits through our neighborhoods. We want the speed limit dropped in the inner streets for road safety and community safety. We should be able to walk and bike safely. It is your job to ensure our children's safety and the community's safety. Do what's right, make what we already have safe, and do what's right for our community. Our children should be our #1 priority inside these city walls, as well as our community members. You can't fit a UPS truck going 30 and my car on the same road. It doesn't happen. My wife hit a mailbox because UPS was going 30 down my street and ran her off the road. It doesn't make sense. But thank you for putting the 30-mile-per-hour speed limit signs in my yard and make a point of it.
Thank you. Anyone else from the public wish to speak? No applause, please.
My name's Tony Ray. You all know who I am, and all of you have been given my fee schedule. This is the oath of office for you all. I've gotten them all. I, Christopher Nunn, do solemnly swear that I will support, protect, and defend the Constitution and the government of the United States and the state of Florida, that I am duly qualified to hold office under the Constitution of the state, and that I will well and faithfully perform the duties of office of the council member for the city of Sebastian, which I am now about to enter into, so help me God. Am I lying, Chris Nunn? Is that that's your oath? An individual, except the president, elected or appointed to an office of honor or profit in the civil service or ununiformed services shall take the following oath by constitutional law. I, Tony Ray, do solemnly swear or affirm that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic, that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same, that I take this obligation freely without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion, and that I will well and faithfully discharge the duties of office which I am about to enter, so help me God. All of you are fraudulent in your oath of office, because your oath of office is to the corporation. What is the corporation? We were incorporated in 1875, 28 U.S.C. 3002. Your government is a corporation. 15 U.S.C. 3002, the person is part of the corporation. We're not a corporation. We were usurped in 1871, and every one of you are a part of the corporation with FMTI, your insurance place. So why is it, Chris Nunn, that I get kicked off of next door every time?
Ma'am, direct the comments to me, please, and no personal attacks.
Well, he's attacking me personally on next door.
Ma'am, direct the comments to me.
And then he personally sends me a message that says, oh, what happened to your text, Tony? It got deleted, ah, ha, ha, ha. Don't act like you don't know. Police have, and you couldn't find this out, this is why you're unqualified for this position. Police have no duty to protect. Supreme Court case law. The case builds upon Supreme Court precedents, Shaughnessy and Winnebago County Department of Social Services. Your police department does not protect and serve. They collect money for the corporation. Your oath of office is not to this Constitution of the United States. You are all fraudulent.
Thank you, ma'am. Anyone else from the public wish to speak? Yes, sir.
My name's Terry McGinn, Miller Drive, Sebastian. I'm making this set of comments so I can get it on the public record, and it involves the budget, and I'm really glad that Brian revised the schedule so that I could go after the strategic plan. That was perfect for me. Thank you, Brian. I'm on the Budget Advisory Board. I've been on it for 4 years. This year, we Monday night was the Budget Advisory Board meeting, the first one, organizational. Brian was there and the new finance director was there. We elected a new chairman and a new vice chairman. I made this statement at that meeting, and the new chairman basically said he agreed with just about everything that I said. So I would like to repeat a little bit of it, and I can skip some thanks to the strategic plan presentation. It's my opinion that we consider these comments before we begin the next budgeting process. Given the uncertainty created both nationally and on the state level this year, and I consider that really a nonpartisan statement. All we need to do is follow what's going to happen for the next 12 months. I say to my friends, get back to me in 12 months. Let me know how you're doing. It's imperative that we proceed carefully to consider the changes that will occur, because every one of those changes nationally and on a state level are going to affect our income. Our governor has presented, the governor and the legislators presented the possibility of eliminating real estate tax. I lived in the Bahamas for a long time, and we had a 52% VAT tax. That's about the only alternative you're going to find. So I think that approaching this year's budget, we've had, in the last 2 budget years, we've had a lot of pressure called reduce the tax. Don't go with the full presentation. This year, I'm hoping, and I will work very hard, and I think the other people will, to look at that strategic plan and look at the economy as it proceeds for the next 12 months. We're budgeting for the next fiscal year, which means that we've got to find out now. It is not, we're going to have a septic to sewer issue by 2030 unless the state changes it, and that's a $300 million package. It is time to look seriously at all these projects and to take the budget process seriously. And I hope that I will, and I hope the rest of the budget committee will scrutinize what we get as it goes to the city council and help the staff to do it. Somebody complained that we had a $5 million surplus and it went to $7 million. That's crazy. We can't meet the projects. We don't have enough for infrastructure repair. We've got lots of projects to do, and to try and say the voters will be happy if we reduce their taxes by $25 is crazy. One of the budget members said on Monday night, the same people who really are bitterly against the small tax increase go out then and eat out 3 times a week and buy a new iPhone. The fact is that we are one of the lowest tax rolls.
Sir, if you could wrap it up a little bit.
Yeah, fine. And with that, I'd like to finish with just a quick announcement that on Friday at noontime, the Taxpayers Association will have a meeting. It hasn't been published much. The Mosquito Control District will make a full presentation on their 100th anniversary and a panel. And it'll be at noontime at Vero Beach Country Club, free unless you get the lunch, which is $25. Be there by 11:45. It has not been published very well. It's going to be a great meeting.
All right. Thank you, sir. Anyone else from the public? Yes, sir.
Good evening. My name's Andrew Martin. I'm a Sebastian resident, and I'd like to talk about the speed limits being lowered. I do not believe the speed limit should be lowered in the city of Sebastian. In my opinion, lowering the speed limit on residential streets in Sebastian serves no benefit other than slowing down the flow of traffic on somewhat busy streets, at least by Sebastian standards. And speed bumps are just going to damage cars, especially any sports cars with low ground clearance, and they can be very dangerous to motorcyclists, especially in wet conditions. Firstly, children shouldn't be playing in the streets. It's generally not a good idea. And the city of Sebastian has plenty of beautiful parks and recreational areas without the risk of cars if playing in the child's front or backyard is insufficient. I've lived in Sebastian for over 20 years, and residential speed limits of 30 miles per hour have been working just fine as long as I've been here. I believe this is a non-issue and therefore an unnecessary waste of the city's time and local taxpayer dollars to change any speed limit signs or add speed bumps. I've looked online for any news stories of any incidents involving pedestrians being hit by vehicles on residential streets in Sebastian, and thankfully I haven't found any. I only found 3 stories even slightly related. 2 stories were about pedestrians being hit in front of Earl's. 1 pedestrian was intoxicated and the other was a hit and run, both of which have nothing to do with residential speed limits being too high. The 3rd story was a hit and run on a residential street in Sebastian. The driver was arrested and found to have drugs and drug paraphernalia on them. Again, the story has nothing to do with residential speed limits being too high. Furthermore, I'm not saying any City of Sebastian police officer would enforce such a strict limit, but making it so that someone going 26 miles an hour down a residential street is now technically breaking the law and is subject to being ticketed is an unreasonable burden to the residents of Sebastian that are just trying to get to and from work at the same pace they have been for years. I know the argument against what I'm saying is what if, God forbid, someone does get hit, but I don't think changing laws or city ordinances based off a gruesome possibility of what if should take place. It's not my intention to seem dismissive of any pedestrian or child safety. I think more enforcement of our current speed limits in any perceived problem area or having more usage of digital radar signs by the Sebastian Police Department are a more viable option to the issue rather than making the streets of Sebastian unpleasant or unsafe to drive down with speed bumps or unnecessary lowering our speed limits. I'd like to thank the City Council for their time. Have a nice night.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else from the public? Yes, ma'am.
Good evening. My name's Kathy Love. We live on the corner of Barber and Dempsey, and I don't know where he lives, but on Barber, they're flying by day and night, 50 miles an hour. And I'm not exaggerating. I garden a lot. I'm out there watering the plants, watering everything. And I don't know where, like I said, he must live on a quiet side street, but it's a 30 mile per hour. And people, if they're going 40, I'm happy, honest to goodness. And I see them, there's a straight run from my house going to the park, and people are passing other cars that are going slower. So I've been here 6 years. I'm a resident, I'm a snowbird, I'll be honest, but we're here most of the time. And I live in a residential area also in New Jersey, and every residential area is 25 miles per hour. Here it's 30. So I don't know, there's more traffic, more building. Maybe it worked 15, 20 years ago, but it doesn't work now. So, and I'm not lying. They go 50 miles an hour down that road because they know no one's policing it. Nobody's doing anything about it. We had an accident right there at Vachel, I don't know how to pronounce it, Vachel and Barber just a few months ago. I told the police then, I said people are just flying by. They cut through Vachel from Roseland to get to Fleming. And anyway, I'm a little nervous, but
that's okay.
I don't like to make a fuss, that's why. I just want to live in peace, but and we love our house, we love the neighborhood, we love the city, but there's no reason you have to go down Barber going 50 miles. It's all residential. There's no businesses. There's nothing. People are going to their homes. Why are the people flying? Work, everything. We just pulled out to come here We made off of Dempsey. We were making a left. This truck is barreling down right on our behind. It's like it doesn't feel residential. It feels like we're living. Honest to goodness, on 512 they go slower because they know the police are policing it. They go 45, maybe 50. They fly down Barber. They fly down Roseland. They fly down Fleming. Now, I don't believe in speed bumps. They're not going to work. And those flashing lights are right outside our Barber Street, around the corner. And they don't pay attention to that. It goes 30, and then it's 35, 40. They don't care. But the only thing I think that really needs to change is I think Vachel and Barber should be a four-way stop sign. Just like they have on Fleming. They have four-way stop signs every now and then. Just to break because when you get on, if you turn off of,
Wrap it up.
all right, if you turn on 512 onto Barber, going toward my area, by the time they get to my street, they are flying. There's nothing to break their rhythm. And that's a long stretch. So I don't know, that's my suggestion. I think it's reasonable. Four-way stop sign, Vachel and Barber. And that might help, and maybe another few others.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you.
She's a grant, thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry to take your time, but.
Anyone else? Yes, ma'am.
You never know what's going to come out of my mouth, Ann Stanley. Anyway, particularly one council member that passes our street often. I am here to tell you to leave the speed limit the same, because why penalize the honest people that are driving the proper speed limit? We just have to enforce it. I know we're short of policemen and that type of thing. And they do. When have my dogs out in the morning at 7 a.m., 7 a.m. is when they drive very fast. And I have called the police a couple of years ago and asked if they could put somebody on Joy Street just at a certain time in the morning. It seems to be much better during the rest of the day, but they do fly by. I don't know if it's 50, but it sure feels like it. But no, I do not want, and I'm on one of the busiest thoroughfares there is, between Fleming and Barber. And they do race by, but you know what? We just have to enforce it. I'm honest. I haven't had a speeding ticket for 42 years. So that's all I have to say. I love my council and I love my police.
All right, thank you. Anyone else from the public wish to speak? Anyone on Zoom?
No, this time.
All right, I'll close public input. I don't know, Mr. Benton, would you like to give an update on what, I know every speeding thing, every council member receives and directs it to you. If you could talk about some of the efforts that have been undertaken.
Yeah, so we basically, whenever we get inquiries in regards to speeding and high speeds, we do a traffic study analysis on those roads. And that's kind of our first step in taking a look at what's happening. I think we complete traffic studies pretty much on a weekly basis at this point because, with inquiries that come in. And then based on that, we get a median range of what the travel speeds are, and then we have an 85th percentile range. 85th percentile is what's known in MUTCD standards as what the vehicles, what the drivers feel comfortable traveling down that road. And that's where we get the 85th percentile range. So that's kind of our first step. We then will take additional measures based on that speed study. If something really red flag raises our eyes, we'll kind of take a further look at that. I know I communicate with the police department on a consistent basis in some selected enhancement or enforcement in certain areas that we may have some concern. In specific to the most recent study we did on Layport, in our assessment of that roadway, we found that there were no speed limit signs on that section of road. So we did install speed limit signs there. We've done some selected enforcement over the last week. I can tell you, we're not out there 24/7, but over the course of the last week, they pulled over 2 people in that area in a week that were increased speeding in that area. So that kind of gives you the numbers, and that's kind of similar to what our speed study showed. So, that's our main basis, but that's how we react to those instances and the feedback on those. And obviously, from citizen input tonight, maybe take a look at a couple of different streets that were mentioned. That's how we typically handle that.
All right, thank you, Brian. I wish we could legislate good behavior and common sense, but we can't. Mr. Nunn?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, if I may. I took a ride down Layport because I was curious. I saw the post about the speed limit signs and stuff, and I'm going to be honest, the speed limit signs were put on property lines. They weren't put in people's yards directly. They seemed like they were placed in sensible locations on curves and things like that. One thing I did notice while driving down Layport was there was a young female citizen and her children in the road, and I literally had to go all the way to the other side of the road to go around them because they did not get out of the road when the cars were coming. When I was a kid, someone would yell, car, everybody would get out of the road. When the car went by, everybody get back in the road. Hey, we played in the road, I'm gonna be honest, we did when I was a kid, but we got out of the road. I was very surprised that the person and their children stood. She stood on the line, they stood in the road and didn't get out of the road, and I just don't understand that mindset. I get it that the road is the only hard court place, most flat that most people had to play in to ride their bikes, but at the same time, it's still a roadway. It's not a sidewalk. And I just think, I've got 7 kids, so if you're going to say we don't like kids or we don't value our kids' safety, I raised all 7 of my kids here in this city. I'm raising the last one now. We care immensely about children, but, my children didn't play on busy roads and not get out of the roadway if there's a car coming. So that's my only thought on that. That's all I'll speak to regarding public input.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, during my career, I dealt with that majority of my career, 31 years of dealing with in law enforcement. And I can tell you that there were areas throughout this region that we were called to do speed enforcement because people were speeding in certain neighborhoods, whether it was Okeechobee, St. Lucie, Martin County, or Indian River. And, once we go and you start doing all of those details, most of the people that we caught speeding in those specific areas were people that lived there. And so we got a lot of flack from that as well. But for someone that if the speed limit is 30 miles an hour on the roadway, I'll just give you an example. If it's 30 miles an hour and someone's doing 50, reducing the speed to 20 or 25, speed limit to 20 or 25 is not going to deter some of those people that are doing excessive speeds on those roadways that should not be. But what we can do and continue to do is provide selective enforcement details through our police department to try to curb some of that activity and catch some of those people that are violating the law at such an extreme rate of speed. And that should not be happening in any neighborhood. And I am so proud that our police department, I looked at some records the other day, a lot of traffic stops and tickets were written on Barber, for example. I know that street was brought up earlier, and some other areas. So what we need to do is just continue doing the things that we can do right now and support our police department and let them go over there and do selective enforcement in those areas to try to curb some of that.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Jones. I know you caught me one time. All right. Any other comment? It was a warning, though. He said I rolled through a stop sign. Okay, that leads us up to the consent agenda. Council.
Mr. Mayor, I move approval of the consent agenda.
Second.
Any money here? No money. All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right. Leads us up. Anybody have any committee reports? No?
No.
All right. Leads us up to public hearings. Item A, consideration of ordinance number O-25-01, proposed future land use map amendment. Madam Attorney.
Thank you, Mayor. This is a second reading on ordinance number 02506, an ordinance of the City of Sebastian, Florida, amending the Land Development Code of the City of Sebastian by adding section 54-2-7.23 to establish new standards for accessory dwelling units. Am I in the wrong one? Sorry, wrong tab. My bad. 2501, an ordinance of the City of Sebastian, Florida, approving a small-scale amendment to the comprehensive plan future land use map to designate a land use classification of low-density residential LDR for land with a current land use designation of institutional INST for property consisting of 3.96 acres more or less, located north of Day Drive, south of Spring Valley Avenue, west of Alexis Street, and east of Schuman Waterway, authorizing findings and administrative actions, providing for conflicts, providing for severability, providing for scrivener's errors, providing an effective date, and providing an adoption schedule. You guys just wanted to hear me talk more.
All right. Thank you. Ms. Bernard, is this yours?
This is. Good evening, Council. So this is the second and final reading for future land use map amendment from institutional to low-density residential for St. Lucie Development Corp., consisting of 3.96 acres off of Day Drive and Spring Valley. And I believe the applicant is also here if we have any additional questions for him. I have nothing further to add, but I'd be happy to answer any questions.
All right. Thank you. Council, any questions for Ms. Bernard?
No.
This hasn't changed since the last time we talked about it, so I'll move approval.
Second.
I'm going to get a motion in a second. Anyone from the public wish to speak on this item? Anyone on Zoom? Roll call.
Councilmember Dodd?
Yes.
Councilmember Nunn?
Yes.
Mayor McPartlin?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Jones?
Yes.
And Councilmember Dixon?
Here. Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Leads us up to item 10B, consideration of ordinance number O-25-02. This is a quasi-judicial proposed rezoning off of Day Drive.
Ordinance number 02502, an ordinance of the City of Sebastian, Florida, designating a zoning classification of RS10 residential single-family to land with a current zoning designation of PS Public Service per property consisting of 3.96 acres more or less, located north of Day Drive, south of Spring Valley Avenue, west of Alexis Street and Schuman Waterway, providing for conflicts, scrivener's errors, severability, and effective date.
All right. Anyone who plans to speak on this item, if they could complete an oath card in the back of the room. Council, anyone have any ex parte communication to disclose?
No.
No.
No. Okay. Applicant? Here? Want to make a presentation? No? Nothing different from the last time? All right. Council, any other questions?
No.
No? All right. Anyone? I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Mayor, I'll make a motion to approve ordinance O-25-02.
Second.
All right, got a motion in a second. Anyone from the public who wishes to speak on this item? Anyone on Zoom?
Not at this time.
All right, roll call. Ms. Williams?
Councilmember Nunn?
Yes.
Mayor McPartlin?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Jones?
Yes.
Councilmember Dixon?
Yes.
And Councilmember Dodd?
Yes.
Motion carries. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Leads up to item C, consideration of ordinance O-25-07, amending Chapter 70 of the Code of Ordinances. Madam Attorney?
Thank you. Ordinance number 02507, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Sebastian, Indian River County, Florida, amending Chapter 70 of the City of Sebastian Code of Ordinances, offenses and miscellaneous provisions, trespassing, amending Section 70-7 to include public camping or public sleeping, providing for findings, purpose, intent, and definitions, prohibiting public camping and sleeping on public property, providing for severability, conflicts, codification, scrivener's errors, and providing for an effective date. This is a second final reading.
All right, thank you. Ms. Bernard, this is your item too?
I have nothing further to add. This is just like we talked about 2 weeks
All
ago
right.
in regards to public
Second
camping.
reading. Council, any questions?
No, sir, not for me, but I'd like to make a motion. I make a motion to approve ordinance O-25-07, amending Chapter 70 of the Code of Ordinances to include provisions for public camping and public sleeping.
Second.
All right, got a motion and a second. Anyone from the public wish to speak on this item? Anyone on Zoom?
Not at this time.
Roll call, Ms. Williams.
Mayor McPartlin?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Jones?
Yes.
Councilmember Dixon?
Yes.
Councilmember Dodd?
Yes.
And Councilmember Nunn?
Yes.
Motion carries. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Leads us up to item 10D, first reading and public hearing on ordinance O-25-06. Madam Attorney?
Thank you. An ordinance of the City of Sebastian, Florida, amending the Land Development Code of the City of Sebastian by adding Section 54-2-7.23 to establish new standards for accessory dwelling units, amending Section 54-5-22.2 by establishing a definition for accessory dwelling units, amending Section 54-275 to update regulations regarding accessory structures pertaining to accessory dwelling units, amending Section 54-264 by deleting conditional use criteria for guest houses, amending Sections 54-2-5.21 and 54-2-5.22 by deleting guest houses as conditional uses from the RE-4 and RE-20 zoning districts, providing for severability, conflicts, codification, scrivener's errors, and an effective date.
Good evening, Ms. Bosworth. This is your item?
This is an applicant-driven application. I'm not sure if the applicants want to get up and present their request to council, and then we can do staff review of the code, the proposed ordinance. I believe they're here.
The applicant here? I believe so. They're in the back.
Good evening, Council. My name is Brad Reardon, and my partner Jim Adams and I own Renovations Plus of Indian River County. We recently contracted with one of your residents here, and Jim is a resident here in Sebastian as well, but to build what is now termed as an accessory dwelling unit, so that this lady can house her adult daughter who cannot afford and is not capable of living out on her own. It's just not, it's not possible. We have done a lot of research in the area. We've had a lot of calls recently for people in this situation, people who have aging parents, people who, you know, they've got, their kids are coming back home. A lot of them, they're in their 30s, they're coming back home and they need a place to live. They can't afford it. And so we would like you to really consider changing in this, according to the new parameters with regard to lot size and so forth and all the other parameters that are going to be listed here. We'd like to ask you to consider changing this zoning ordinance so that folks like our customer and others in your community are able to accommodate those living conditions for their other family members, or for whatever reasons or other reasons are written in that. Ours is pretty specific. But with the ADU, you know, for a couple of things, they provide affordable housing opportunities for individuals and families, such as young professionals, retirees, or essential workers. These units offer a cost-effective alternative to larger homes, helping to address the growing demand for housing in Sebastian. And they enhance the property value. The homeowners will benefit from increased property value when an ADU is added. This can contribute to a stronger local economy as homeowners may reinvest in their properties and the community. It's also supports multi-generational living. I came to Sebastian in 1974. I was born in Indian River County. I've been here my whole life. I used to ride my bicycles on these streets before there were cars on the streets, before there were most streets here. But these ADUs, they allow families to live together while maintaining privacy. We believe we're very family driven. Clearly you are, Chris. This is particularly valuable for aging parents, adult children, and other relatives, fostering family connections and reducing the need for costly assisted living. The sustainability and smart growth aspect, ADUs promote efficient land use and reduce urban sprawl. By encouraging infill development, the city can preserve green spaces and maintain its small town charm while accommodating population growth. Additionally, there are economic opportunities. They provide a source of supplemental income for homeowners through long or short-term rentals, and the additional income can make homeownership more accessible and sustainable for many residents. And then finally, there would be an increased tax revenue. The enhanced property values would result in higher property tax revenue for the city, not to mention the permit fees and all that goes along with it. We understand the importance of preserving the unique characteristics of Sebastian. Thoughtful guidelines for ADU construction, such as size limits and architectural consistency, can ensure that the neighborhoods here the current neighborhoods here without detracting from their charm. Encouraging the construction of ADUs is a forward-thinking strategy that aligns with the values and needs of this community, and we urge the city to support this initiative for the benefit of all of its residents. Thank you.
Thank you. Council, any questions for Mr. Reardon?
No, I do have something to say if I can.
To me?
To him?
No.
No, good, sir.
Oh, sorry. You know, I sit on the Affordable Housing Advisory Committee, and Indian River County enacted this, essentially these parameters into their code not too long ago. And it was for obvious reasons, the cost of housing, your kids coming to live home, you know, maybe a mother that's not ready for retirement but still wants some freedom, and having a guest house or a accessory dwelling unit is a huge benefit. I support this ordinance very much because I think there's a huge benefit for it, as long as the property will handle it. And I know Ms. Bosworth and the team is making sure that's going to be the case. I totally think this is a great move forward for us.
Mr. Mayor, if we're going to do council deliberations, I'd like to do that now.
Okay.
Or whatever your choice is.
All right. You got a question?
Yeah, well, I'm not in support of this. I think that this is almost a solution looking for a problem. I'm not against affordable housing at all. What I'm against is allowing accessory dwellings on a lot that is 0.161 acres in size, which is what 7,000 feet is. I'm opposed to having second residences being built on a quarter-acre lot in Sebastian, in which I think right now the city is predominantly quarter-acre lots. I'm kind of opposed to not understanding the ramifications and the impact of this. We're saying in our ordinance there's not going to be a separate address. What do we do with 911? How's the tax assessor going to handle a second residence, which is a rental property, on the same lot with the primary residence? Are they going to, how are they going to handle that process? How is the Postal Service going to handle it? How is Waste Management going to handle the collection of trash on a second resident? It's already legal in Indian River County to add an addition to an existing home, as long as you're adding that addition to the existing platform. So you can add 2 bedrooms and a bathroom to the back of a house, attached to the house. That's legal, can be done right now without any questions. We already have guest houses, which are defined as inhabitable structures up to 500 square feet, I believe. We already have that in the code in 2 of our zoning categories. The request that came in from the gentleman that asked for this was to add a 500 square foot guest house to a piece of property that's almost a half acre. That is not a problem. All we have to do to satisfy that is add guest housing to the allowable conditional uses within RM10 and RM8 and RS10. And we can do that without opening this up to all of these considerations. We don't know the details that are coming to this. It is, I don't know how to say this, but it's the common conception that we're failing in providing affordable housing. And the solution to that is to potentially jeopardize the basic nature of our city. And I understand completely that this may only be 25 cities and 25 residents in the whole place to do this, but we're opening our city up to a lot of things without really understanding the ramifications doing that. That's exactly what the state legislator is doing to the cities right now, and it's exactly what the federal government is doing to state governments and municipalities right now. They're passing legislation on emotion. They're not considering the impacts of that legislation, and they're going to walk down the line just to wait and see what people try to figure it out. So I'm a no vote on this because I think that we're trying to use a hammer, or maybe trying to use an atomic bomb to solve a problem that we could have solved simply. They could have done their project with that 500 square foot on that half-acre lot by us just extending guest housing to that and allow that accessory building to 500 feet to be a guest house. And we could have done that with our current code with a very simple code change to do that. So for that reason, I'm against this.
All right, thank you. Any other council? I guess, I kind of hear what you said, and I'm in agreement with that. I'm thinking about the septic system. And then again, if you have rental properties, every rental property would probably crop up and want to put an additional, basically rental property on the property already. So,
Yeah, I think it opens up a whole can of worms.
all right. Council?
I mean, if you're ready for a motion, I'll move that we deny this request.
Second.
All right. Got a motion and a second. Anyone from the public wish to speak on this item? Yes.
I'm Louise Cottenberg. I live in the city of Sebastian and have for 29 years, and I serve on the Planning and Zoning Committee as well. And I want to assure you that in making a recommendation, as we did to the council, we understand full well that we are an advisory committee and you guys make the decision. But I want to make sure that you understand this was given infinite thought and consideration and study. And I have a long background in community development from a volunteer, not a professional place. But I've also been involved actively in the real estate business for almost 50 years now, both here and in other states. The lip service that we give to affordable housing is sad. We are not doing anything that would really help. As far as we can do this 500 square foot thing now already in the city, we can't. If you read carefully what the criteria for this is, it encompasses things like taking care of the septic system, making sure that all of the setbacks have to be met, and also making sure of the square footage. I can tell you from my personal experience, and I won't name any names, but this is already being done all over the city illegally. When you say you can add 2 more bedrooms and a bathroom, you certainly can, but that's not independent living. Independent living means someplace to cook your food, someplace to relax, and someplace to sleep. The criteria also establishes that if you have an additional living unit, you must provide a place for a vehicle to park. This was not entered into lightly. All of the criteria was searched and questioned, and I know that we record our meetings, so if you'd look back on it, even the fact of, and I questioned it myself, setting up a situation where you have, where the property can only be used for a family member or relative, that isn't even a good idea. Because then you're stuck with a, what do I want to say? A petunia in an onion patch, so to speak. And it's important to keep every property in our city as viable and as amenable to its neighbors as possible. And I need to tell you that the staff and the volunteers on the committee work really hard at this, and we're looking to solve problems and figure out how we can accomplish our goals rather than why we can't accomplish them. So if we take that look of how can we accomplish our goals instead of why we can't accomplish our goals, I would like you to give this really careful consideration. Consider your own family needs, and not just today, because someday you folks are going to be as old as I am. And you see things a little bit differently from my angle. You're almost as old as I am.
All right.
I'm probably older.
Thank you, ma'am.
But thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else from the public? Anyone? Yes, ma'am.
Carrie Jones, Fatima Court. I just wanted to tell each of you, I hope and pray that you never, ever have any tragedy happen with one of your children and you have to move them into your home. They want privacy too. They want independence also. And I can tell you that a child that has severe medical bills and everything is never probably going to be able to afford a home ever again. And so where do those children go? On the street? No, you're going to open your house up to them. But they deserve the right to have their own independence too. So working in senior living, if you ever have a family member that ages to the point where you have to decide whether they go to a home or not, each of you are going to want them home as long as you possibly can. They're going to want their independence though. So I strongly suggest really looking into something like this to help people that can't afford homes here. I mean, yeah, Habitat for Humanity, there's still $300,000, guys. That's not, when you don't have a huge income, how are you going to provide $300,000 for those homes? So that's all. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Anyone else from the public who's speaking this item? All right, we got a motion and a second.
Mayor, I don't mean to interrupt, but I didn't, when I said that this was applicant-driven, to give the applicant a point to speak, but I do have some answers to some of your questions. We had kind of prepared some information that before you make your vote, if I can answer some of Mr. Dodd's questions and go over some of the things that Ms. Cottenberg what we had talked about at the Planning and Zoning Commission. We did talk, so I don't know where to start. I kind of had a lead in, but you guys kind of threw me off and I wasn't able to give staff's presentation. We did look at we did look at our guest house ordinance. That was our first draft of the ordinance was to allow guest house in the RS10. We were thinking we would require a double lot, and we certainly can, if this is council's wish to go back to this, that we would add guest houses as a conditional use into the RS10, that you possibly would have to have a double lot. And of course, when you look at that, you're thinking of mostly a detached guest house. When we delved into this and started looking into accessory dwelling units, there are so many different types. You can, our current code says living area, bedroom area, and kitchen area creates a living unit. But because of the density in the single family, some of the proposals that have come to us in the past, by them adding that outside door, even if it was a building addition, we were saying you can add this on, but you can't have an outside door. They have to go through that main door because of the density for the zoning district. By putting something into the code allowing accessory dwelling units, we can now have that separate unit under a certain size. We've created criteria. We're not going to look at it towards density, but it also allows even a house addition that you can then add a separate door so that there is some of this separation from that primary house to the accessory dwelling unit, which will kind of give an aging parent or a younger person to have that independence. They don't have to walk through mom and dad's house to even get to their area. It can be a detached. It can be, we already have many detached garages in Sebastian. This can be a second floor added onto already a detached structure. It would become an accessory dwelling unit. With regards to addresses, it's not that we don't want another address, but you certainly can have an address with a unit A and a unit B. The house could be a unit A, could be, you're still going to have one mailbox, but you'll have all that mail going to one address for 911. We did speak to the property appraiser's office regarding homestead exemptions. How is this going to work when you have this other unit and you're possibly renting it out? They already have a process in place that if the accessory dwelling unit, if you build this and when you come in with your building permit, you are defining it as a room addition or a building addition to your house, or you're claiming it as an accessory dwelling unit. If it is used by a family member, you do not lose your homestead exemption. It's still covered under your 3% cap. If you do rent it out to somebody else, it is assessed separately, and it's only covered by the 10% cap. It is fully assessed for school taxes. So they have a process already in place. Impact fees. The county also has a process in place for collecting impact fees. There are impact fees due on the accessory dwelling units. Also, with regards to the septic tank, it will be a permit, would have to be a permit issued or a review by the health department, because you may still have capacity in your existing septic drain field, so you don't have to enlarge that. If you do have to enlarge it, you're probably going to have to put in the new system. So any new system will have to be the new macerator type of system, but that is still all permitted and goes through the regulatory jurisdictions to for that construction. We looked at certain different, we looked at, we did a lot of research into, we used Indian River County, Stewart, and Melbourne, all have ordinances that allow their accessory dwelling units. The American Planning Agency had a lot of information on these really do help. They're not necessarily the solution to affordable housing, because as we're proposing, minimum size 300 square feet, only 1,000 square feet, those are not big living units, they're not houses. They are helping with housing choices, transitional housing for those younger people, those elderly people that don't want to build brand new houses. In the proposed ordinance that we're doing, you still have to meet all of the building coverage, all of the setbacks. They have to match the houses. There are different scenarios of what they do. We really feel this is a good ordinance to open up some of that housing. I think Renovations Plus can let you know that these are not cheap. You just don't build these, so they're not going to be popping up overnight or that many on a street. But it does allow some of the options. And we do have a lot of these illegal accessory dwelling units already. This way they can come out and become legal. We can have the building inspector be able to inspect them for electrical and all. We're recommending approval, as did the planning and zoning, for this ordinance. However, if this is not the direction you want to go, we certainly can go back and revise and bring a draft where we make them conditional uses. They would have to be before Planning and Zoning Commission. There'd be an application, and we can look at those guest house guidelines if you feel that's a better entry into this accessory dwelling unit housing option.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
I just want to clarify, I did watch the Planning and Zoning Commission, Louise, and I'm not, our Planning and Zoning Commission does a great job, our staff does a great job. I'm not questioning any of that stuff when I go through this process. I'm just questioning this particular ordinance the way it's drafted. I'm not saying we don't want to do something along these lines. What I'm saying is that I don't see this ordinance as drafted positive for the city. I don't see it positive for the people that don't want Sebastian to become Stewart or Port St. Lucie or West Melbourne or Palm Bay. And I hear that. That's what I hear from residents. I don't want this new development because I don't want to be Palm Bay. I don't want to be Stewart. I don't want to be Port St. Lucie. And I see in this ordinance the beginnings of the types of things that can happen there. People who aren't really too concerned about Sebastian and its potential future and trying to maintain its integrity as what people want it to be are going to build 1,000-acre things in their backyard, rent them, go buy another house and rent their main house. And they're not going to tell anybody they're doing that. So the tax appraiser will never know that it's not a family member living there. And quite frankly, if we have people who are doing this today in this city and our code enforcement people aren't being asked to visit them, we're making a major mistake. One of our strategic plan goals is to make sure that takes place. Okay, so I mean, I'm being very serious when I say that if we have people who are actually doing this and not asking permission, then our code enforcement people should be at their address tomorrow trying to figure out what they're doing, okay? So it's this. This thing says that we can do an accessory dwelling unit on 7,000 square feet, 1.61 acres. It has other things in here. It does reference parking, but it says that adequate parking space has to be provided. I go to a house on La Playa that has the ability to have one car in the garage and one car in the driveway, and I build an accessory dwelling unit in the backyard. Where's that parking going to be? So I'm looking at the details, and the devil is in the details, and this doesn't reference those details. I personally would like to see in here that we're not going to allow this on quarter-acre lots. There's not enough space on a quarter-acre lot to do this. Now, if you want to add a bedroom and a bathroom to your house on a quarter acre lot, that's fine, or add 2 bedrooms and whatever. But, so I don't think the details have been properly vetted out on this. And I'm not questioning the staff. I know what you're trying to satisfy a request from a customer to do that, so.
Well, we also, this was also in our comprehensive plan. This was discussed when we had put together comprehensive plan. We do have policies in there that said that city council would look at the feasibility, the character and natures. I do have some samples that we have put some accessory dwelling units on some quarter acre lots. If you need to see those or to go over those, but this is also a requirement of a policy of our comprehensive plan.
I know, comp plan requires that we look at affordable housing, we look at several things. It does not require that we allow somebody to build a second building on a quarter acre lot. Doesn't require that. I'm just saying that I personally, as a member of this council, cannot vote for that. That's all I'm saying. Okay.
Mr. Mayor?
Thank you.
Yes, Mr.
If I may. Thank you, Ms. Bosworth. First, I want to apologize for usurping your staff presentation, but maybe having us talk first was a good opportunity for you to lay out not just that you have a request from a company, but that you have already pre-thought this out, that you have already had premeditated planning and discussion and come up with a plan to deal with everything that was mentioned. And whether that's acceptable or good enough is up to each council member to make a decision. I'm very happy with the amount of pre-planning that you've done with this. And I have faith in my planning department to make sure that, you know, obviously I have a quarter acre lot that I can barely put a shed on. So much less could I build an accessory dwelling structure. I understand that's not going to happen on those lots. You know, I have faith in that department to do what needs to be done to make sure things are fitting properly. You've already said maybe a second lot's going to be required for some things, maybe not. You know, that moonshot moment we had earlier, Kennedy says, you know, we don't do things because they're easy, we do things because they're hard. If we always sit back and say, well, there might be problems, so we shouldn't do that. Well, there might be issues, so we shouldn't do that. Well, first of all, I want to say Palm Bay in 1990 had 65,000 people in it. They have 260,000 people now. In 1990, we'll just go with today. We have 28,000 people. We've barely grown compared to what they've grown. You know, people love to say we don't want to be Palm Bay. Listen, we'll never be Palm Bay. We'll never be that city. We don't have the space for it, first of all. Does that mean we don't want to find an alternative to help fixing some problems when it's an alternative to look at? I think this is a good plan. I think you've done an amazing job, your team, coming and putting this together. Yes, it's on behalf of a contractor, but you've made it very clear this is also part of a comprehensive plan requirement that we look at, not that we make it happen, but that we look at it, and that you've put together a good plan for making it happen. So I'm going to make a motion to approve.
I've already made a motion.
Did we already have a motion?
Yes.
Okay. I didn't hear.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to say something else if I can.
Go ahead. Yes.
Okay, and Councilmember Nunn, I just want to assure you that I haven't made these comments in front of the council without making them in front of the staff before the meeting.
Okay.
So every single comment that I made in front of council, I made to the staff before this meeting, and I'm not playing Chicken Little on this. Okay, so I just want to make sure that that's brought out in the forefront.
All right. Well,
I don't normally bring things up in public in an open council meeting without taking them to staff beforehand.
Yeah, but we don't need that. Just go ahead and call the vote here, if that's the case.
I mean, I'm not hearing anybody that's saying, no, tighten it up is what I'm hearing on the thing.
Right.
And I live in my in-law suite, and it's attached. Roll call, Ms. Williams.
Okay, so this is to deny the first reading.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Jones?
What is it for here?
To deny the first reading.
No, this is second reading, but no.
This is first.
This is the first reading.
First.
Okay, no.
No.
Your vote is no? Thank you. Councilmember Dixon?
Yes.
Councilmember Dodd?
Yes.
Councilmember Nunn?
No.
And Mayor McPartlin?
Yes.
Okay. The motion carries.
Thank you. All right.
So and I apologize, just to make it clear, so this ordinance has been denied for first reading. We're not going to bring it back for second reading. Is there direction from council that you would like to see another version or draft, or just the accessory dwelling unit is denied?
I think we want to tighten it up.
Yeah, I
mean, Mr. Mayor, can I add something?
Yes.
As you all are aware, there is Senate Bill 184 that's out there.
Yes.
It has already made it through 2 committees, adds one more stop. Staff is fully aware of the questions that were coming. Ms. Bosworth did a great job in addressing those questions. Staff did a ton of research on this. And, you know, our thought process on still continuing to bring this forward is that currently now that Senate bill does not have a grandfather clause, but if there happened to be one, we would have something that was in place that was stronger than what that bill is going to bring forward. That bill is going to allow it. It's going to say you can't have any parking regulations. It's going to say that manufactured units are allowed on the property, and it's going to provide clarification in regards to rentals and how that all plays out. So I just wanted to bring that forward on why we continue to bring this forward tonight. And thank you to staff. They did a great job reviewing it. They've heard from me probably for the last week on what I wanted to see here tonight. But I just wanted to bring that up tonight, that there was a little bit of discussion from us on whether we pulled this item or not. But we felt that it was important to continue to bring it forward, and just wanted to consider that as you go forward.
All right, thank you. We fully support you. Thank Ms. Bosworth.
Yeah.
And let's take a 10-minute break. We're in recess. There we go. I'll bring this meeting back. Okay. We got rid of, we took care of the strategic plan. We pulled the conceptual. Leads us up to item 12B, presentation on the supplementary city logo and brand template.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So I'm going to kind of kick this one off. We've got Avery, who is our social media and communications coordinator, and Karen Miller, who is our city engineer and special projects director. They're going to handle the presentation for this, but I kind of want to kick it off a little bit and give you a little bit of information on why exactly we're here looking at this. As you all are fully aware, we've taken a big approach on social media and communications over the past year. And in doing that, we found a little bit of inconsistencies on our communication and ways that we can brand ourselves from a city standpoint. And they're going to show some examples of that in the presentation tonight. But that's really the gist of why we're here. We're looking for you all to provide some feedback on the supplementary city logo and kind of our brand template. And from this, we will then expand to develop our brand guidelines and our communication plan that will go into place across the city. So with that, I'll turn it over to Avery and let her handle it from here.
Yes, thank you for that introduction, and good evening, council.
Good evening.
So, get this pulled up here. So I'll start with the project overview. As Brian was saying, brand guidelines are essential to ensure that our messaging and our branding is consistent across the organization. This consistency will reflect the professionalism of the city and allow for easy recognition of city materials by our residents, staff, partners, anybody who sees what we do and put out, essentially. So we've identified through this the need for a supplementary city logo, and this is kind of to conform with certain social media platforming sizing requirements, and we're seeking your approval for the design and utilization of a supplementary logo. So the brand guidelines template will clearly outline when and when not to use a supplementary logo, and that will be given to all of staff and partners that we work with. And that's kind of what we have here. This isn't everything, but this will give you a good idea, and you should have this in front of you in case you want to go back to it if I move too fast. But we can kind of go over this a little bit. So obviously, as we said, social media would be using the supplementary logo, and that's just for like the profile picture. I'm sure you guys are familiar with it. It's a circle, so this would better fit that sizing requirements. We have the website, which would be a combination of both. But for more official city business, like legal documents and stuff, that would be still the main city logo. So going from here, this is kind of an example of what you would find in our brand guidelines. That is the font that we have chosen, which you'll see later on the new logos and some of the example documents. There you can see what it looks like for headings, subheadings, body copy, both in all caps and lowercase. And then we have the colors, so the top row, those are all the colors that you can find in our current main city logo. So I try to kind of go off of that for the supplementary city logo, just lighter colors, brightening it up a bit, trying to like showcase the coastal community charm, which is also part of our some of our new goals, as we heard earlier. So these are going to be the options that we kind of narrowed it down to, which I can come back to this, and you guys have this in front of you too, printed out as well if you want to take a real good look at it. But so here's an example letterhead, and so our main city logo has quite a few versions of it out there. As you can see, those are two different versions of it, and we have documents that are going out, email signatures that are going out with the different versions of this. So we want to standardize which version people should be using, and we've chosen the matte version that you see on the after. And then that's the new font, the Myriad. I think it looks a little bit more legible, kind of easier to read for folks. And then this is an example of an agenda transmittal, which currently has the Centennial logo, and obviously Centennial's over, unfortunately, so we're trying to move away from that. That's what it would look like with the main city logo, that standard matte text. And then that also has the Myriad font. You can see I think the spacing does look a little bit better. You can even see in the box next to the logo. It's a little bit more legible and the spacing is more correct. And then this is an example if we wanted to choose whichever supplementary logo you guys decide on, if you wanted to put that there instead of the main city logo, that's kind of what it would look like. And then these are some examples of some things we could do with our email signatures, because right now we are kind of all over the place, and we want to incorporate our social media into our email signatures as well, so more people can find us on there and connect with us and stay in the know. And this is important because this is kind of what we're working with right now, a little bit all over the place. And this is obviously just email signatures, but this goes for like all of our documents. So doing this process will really help to reflect our professionalism as a city, as an organization, and for people to look and see, okay, obviously this is from the city of Sebastian. You know, there's a lot of spam emails and stuff going out, so this would be another way for people to recognize us. But that's all I have, so thank you, and I can answer any questions you may have.
Is our current logo copyrighted or trademarked at all?
I do not believe so, no.
Okay.
We have the rights to it, but it's not that someone else can't possibly use it. We'll have to look for a little bit further into that.
Okay.
Do you have the history of it?
I don't believe it is. I think we talked about it briefly at some point since I've been here. It would cost probably about $5,000 to $10,000. Isn't usually worth the cost. Most jurisdictions find.
No, I was just asking, the only reason is if we have one copyrighted, then we probably should do the other one, but if we don't have it copyrighted, then I don't see any reason to go forward with doing the other one, so. But I mean, I support this. I think it's really nice. I like the one with 2 trees. That's just my personal preference.
I like the 1 tree.
Yeah, okay, one, but.
You lose the beak in the 2.
Yeah. But I do think that we should standardize the email signatures, maybe even to the point where we actually produce the email signature blocks for everybody some way or another. I don't, if you leave it up to each individual to do it, it's kind of difficult to get them to do the standardization on it. So,
Yes,
I like
sir.
that.
Sorry to interrupt you.
That's
but
okay.
Barbara actually has a platform that we have access to that will get our information based on people's titles and their phone numbers. Obviously, they would have to make sure it's up to date. But whichever layout we choose, it will automatically put everybody's email signature in. That way, everybody's the same, and council can do the same.
Awesome.
So.
Okay.
I like the 3 too. I don't want the pelican wandering aimlessly. And then the 1 tree, like Ms. Dixon said, you can see the full beak,
Yes.
as opposed with the 2 trees.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah, I like the sunrise with the 1 tree. That was my leaning option. Although looking at the email signature, 1 looks really nice on there in your example, but just like Karen Miller's, the top right card, it just.
Yes, and we could change, obviously, if you think that looks best, we could put any of the logos up there. That was just kind of to give you guys some different ideas of
really
things we could do.
nice.
Yeah, I like that email signature. Just put the other logo in it.
Yeah. All right.
You like the one with 1 tree?
Yes, I do.
Yeah.
You need a motion on this? You need us?
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like we're going to do a little bit of a mix, but if we could.
Sorry, I design things.
No, it's okay, because looking at it here, I agree with you all. But yes, if we could just get, a motion from council to approve a supplementary logo, and then obviously if we want to go with a different logo for just the email signature, we can do that. But having 1 standard for everything else would be fine.
I'll make a motion to approve a supplementary city logo, and I would go with the one under the word supplementary city logo in our book, which is the 1 tree with the pelican, is my recommendation.
Option
3.
Okay.
Fine with that.
Second?
Second.
All right. Anyone from the public wish to speak on the supplementary logo? Anyone on Zoom?
Not this time.
All right, any further discussion? Roll call, Ms. Williams.
Councilmember Dixon?
Yes.
Councilmember Dodd?
Yes.
Councilmember Nunn?
Yes.
Mayor McPartlin?
Yes.
And Vice Mayor Jones?
No. Only because, and I'm not voting against that, I just like number 1 better than number 3, so I just want to put that out there. I like number 1 better.
Okay.
That's why I said no,
That's
okay?
fair. That's fair.
All right. The pelican with no home.
No, that's what they look like out there on the water.
All right. All right, that brings us up to item 11C, consideration of a purchase order for Allen J. Automotive Management Incorporated. Is this?
I'll get it
Benton, or-
started, and then I know we have procurement and we have the police chief here as well for additional questions.
All right.
But we are seeking tonight for you to authorize a purchase order for the purchase of 4 Chevrolet Tahoe police pursuit vehicles, and also, in addition to that, a PO for the upfitting of the vehicles as well. The total budgeted amount for this project in this year's fiscal year was $296,996. The expenditure we're requesting between the 2 POs, the total amount is $290,610.85. And I also just want to identify that we are moving some equipment in order to come in and meet the budget. We are utilizing some equipment off of our existing vehicles when they're transferred over. So we will have to make some adjustments once those meet their end of life in future years. But this was our best attempt at coming in under budget for this request. And like I said, we've got Jessica from Procurement and Chief Acosta here from the Police Department if you have any specific questions.
Anything to add, Ms. Graham, or Chief?
No, nothing to add. Brian covered everything.
All right, council, any questions?
No.
Mr. Mayor, I move approval.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. Anyone from the public wishing to speak on this matter? I understand the sheriff's moving to all Tahoes too. Basically, that's his plan. All right, roll call, Ms. Williams.
Councilmember Dodd?
Yes.
Councilmember Nunn?
Yes.
Mayor McPartlin?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Jones?
Yes.
And Councilmember Dixon?
Yes.
Motion carries. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Madam Attorney, anything for us tonight?
Yes, sir, I do. Under Florida law, generally all meetings are open to the public. There is an exception in the statutes that provide for an executive session when there's litigation matters to be discussed with the council and your council. In this instance, I'm asking for a litigation meeting for settlement negotiations or strategy sessions related to litigation. The entire session will have a court reporter, and I'll arrange for that. I'm asking that we publish this and give the public notice and the date, and I'm asking that you could have it at the next meeting, possibly through a breakout session or prior to the regular meeting. Maybe we could do a 6 and a 6:30, or trying to accommodate Mr. Mai's availability. So I'm looking for your direction on that, and I think that's it.
How long do you think it will take?
I can't see it lasting more than a half hour at the most, probably 15 minutes, because we don't have a whole lot of things to discuss at this stage.
Okay.
So I think a breakout session would be good, maybe, if we just brought it earlier in the meeting, like you do CRA.
All right, maybe on the 26th, 5 o'clock?
The 26th, or we could
Or
do
5:30.
5:30?
Yeah, 5:30.
No, we don't need to do it earlier. If you can do it as like a breakout session during the regular meeting.
So you'll advertise the regular meeting is starting at 6:30, and we'll do a breakout
6.
from 6 to 6:30?
No, we'll do 6 o'clock as normal, because we have already published for other things.
Because if we do a breakout, it takes us 10 minutes to get upstairs, and it takes us 15 minutes to talk about it, it takes us 10 minutes to get
Well-
back, that's a half hour.
I mean, we could do it here, just,
Yeah. It can't, because there'll be people in the
Yeah.
audience.
well, I mean, you could clear the room. I mean, you think there'll be
No, we'll go upstairs.
Okay, all right. Yeah, I mean, I just think you handle it like you would a CRA meeting as a breakout. And I'll notice it for 6.
You got any idea what's on the agenda on the 26th, Brian?
We will have a decent amount of things, but nothing that should take a long period of time.
So I go with
It's a good
5:30. 5:30. 5:30. Prior to the meeting.
Is
Unless
5,
one of them winks at me right now, then I think that's the answer.
is 5:30 a problem with the advertisement or anything?
5:30, a problem with Mr. Mai.
Oh, well.
No, we think it's best to stick with 6 o'clock.
All right.
So basically, we'll do this from 6 to 6:30 and let's start this, and we'll adjourn the meeting.
Right. Go up.
We'll recess the meeting, we'll go upstairs, we'll plan on trying to be back here and by 6:30. So people that want to come in and discuss things, we can let them know it's going to be a little bit later. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anything else, Madam Attorney?
Not tonight, sir. Thank you.
Mr. Benton?
So the first item I have is I'm looking for a little bit of direction and if possible, get consensus, on this matter. So we pulled item 12A today. And one of the things that we've talked from a staffing level is, a potential of doing a public workshop. However, you all have provided us direction, in the past, and within the last year, that for public workshops, we do a mail out to every single resident. My concern with this is that mail out every time costs us about $6,000 to $7,000. And, you know, looking at our budgets right now, we're pretty tight and I don't really have the funds for that. I've had some discussions on, we'll push out via social media. We'll try to get some newspaper coverage to advertise the meeting and get some details out there as well. So my request is if you all are okay with us scheduling a workshop on the Riverview Park Master Plan, a final one to give the public input on what the final results were before we bring it to City Council. And then the second item portion of that is to, I know it isn't a requirement, but you all had requested that every single time we have a workshop to do the mail outs. So kind of just relax that for this one meeting and not require us to do the mail outs.
So you need a consensus?
I just need a consensus.
That we want to waive that notification portion? Okay.
Are you doing the workshop because somebody's complaining that the public hasn't been involved in this?
No, I think what we're going to do the workshop on is we have had an internal discussion about a potential second option that I think is a reasonable and a decent option. So we'd like to just get feedback on both options at that time.
Any idea when you're planning on?
We would be looking the beginning of April, and it would be a public workshop. So you know we would just come in and kind of how we handled the other ones, nothing formal on the dais, just a public workshop open to the public to come in. And I don't have the council chambers calendar, but we'd be looking the first week of April is our plan. That way we could have it back to you all for consideration on April 26th, or sorry, April.
Okay.
23rd.
Are any of you guys gone that first week in April up in Tallahassee? No?
We'll be in Tallahassee the week before.
The week before that? Okay.
March 24th, I think, through the 26th. Can we not do that? Can we not do that like from 5 to 6 before our first meeting in April?
We can do that.
As opposed to having a separate meeting?
Absolutely. We can do that.
I mean, there's no reason we can't sit down there and then come up here at 6 o'clock for the regular meeting.
Yeah, we can do that April 9th. We can do that on April 9th.
Is this, I don't want to muddle the waters here, but is this something to do with one of the monuments?
Elements.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so it's to do with that. So, okay.
Yep.
All right.
I think it's just good that the reason the item was pulled was one of the elements. I wasn't, couldn't give you a definitive answer tonight on with my research. It was a short timeline. So I think with this process, we're going to provide a second option where we weren't going to begin with. And I think it'll give a good option for the public to see both options and see where we go from there.
Okay, so you're going to provide two options, and if the public chooses the option, which is the current design, that doesn't mitigate the issue with the potential of there being a problem with one of the monuments, or does it?
So I think the problem with one of the monuments is, if that is a real problem, the other option addresses that.
Okay.
Right.
So, and we'll fully have that answer before that public workshop.
Oh, you will have the answer for that before the workshop?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't have time in a day and a half with other meetings and stuff to do a full in-depth evaluation of it.
I guess from my perspective, if that's not a problem, I don't know why we would want to look at a second option. The current layout is a really good layout. And if, you know, I'd kind of like to know if that's a problem, and if it's not, the Parks and Rec Committee has seen the current layout, and they've agreed to it. They had a public, I mean, that was advertised for the public. We could have people come in and comment during a presentation, but if there's not a problem with moving that monument, then I don't know why we want to look at a second option.
Okay.
You know, I don't want to question what you've been planning on doing, but I think that.
Yeah, I mean, I think from our standpoint, from a staffing perspective, I think having the public workshop isn't going to hurt. And that's just the way we're looking at it right now from now. And then that at least gives us another opportunity. This thing will have been seen in the public eye numerous times before we ever bring it to council for the final presentation.
Okay.
So I would prefer to continue to move forward with the
So if we
workshop.
have a public workshop, can we make a decision tonight that if there's not a problem with moving that monument, we only want to present the current plan?
We would present the current model, correct.
Okay, and not present an option to that?
We can do that.
Can I ask a question?
Mr. Norton, go ahead.
I want to ask about the new option that you have. Is staff liking it better than the first option that we've come up with? I mean, are they seeing this as maybe they found a better alternative for placement or something?
So
Brian, I just tell them that there may be something that can be done with a couple of the elements other than what it's already been done, so.
I mean, because if it's.
I don't want to speak for staff, to be quite honest.
Well, you speak
I
for
haven't
staff.
I've directed them to make a change. I haven't involved them in the change that I was making. It was an idea that literally came to me this morning. So I don't want to say that they are fully on board with it until we have a chance to see it visually and evaluate it. Okay. But I feel like the second option is a very reasonable option that could come in as a better monetary option for the city as well. Okay. So kind of looking at a couple things with it, I think is probably our best option on this. Okay. All right. I know multiple options, best option.
So we're workshopping it.
So why not just present that to council during the meeting and advertise it? It's in the agenda. Anybody who wants to come in and comment can do that. And why not just present your two options to the council and let's make a decision?
Okay.
It's
up to you all how you want to handle this. I know in the past we've had a big push to have public workshops, and I thought this might be a chance since we've reset a little bit to have a public workshop, but we can also just present it to council. It's clearly up to what the consensus wants us to do.
I don't see a problem with having a workshop.
I don't either. I agree. I think that we should, because there are some things that's got to be looked at that may make a big difference, so.
And
I think the
then we
public
will
should
have given them an
access to that.
opportunity to.
So we will do a
Get their piece.
workshop on April 9th at 5 p.m.
Thank you.
And then we will follow that up with, depending on the feedback from there, I don't want to we've got a quick turnaround to get it on the agenda for the 23rd, but the final version will come to you all the 23rd or the first meeting in May.
All right. Thank you. Anything else, Brian?
Legislation. So I know I mentioned one bill tonight, but there's a lot of legislation that's happening right now, discussions in committees. And I know Councilmember Dodd and myself will be up in Tallahassee March 24th, 25th, and coming back 26th for the meeting. But we're kind of putting things together. Staff is keeping a close eye on things and trying to evaluate how items could potentially affect the city. Obviously, nothing at this point is finalized, but just looking at our possibilities. So we'll continue to pass that information along to you all as we get more, but trying to keep you all informed is what we're trying to do.
All right. That's it?
That's it.
All right. Thank you, Brian. Ms. Williams? Nothing? Mr. Don?
Okay, I just want to kind of follow up on what Brian just said, just to give you an idea. In addition to 991, which is out there, septic to sewer kind of stuff, but right now there's bills in Tallahassee that are being talked about that some of them have a good chance of being passed that, for example, that require cities to go to rollback. And if they choose not to go to rollback, they can only increase their millage levy by 1.02% of rollback. That's a big killer. There, of course, is the conversation about doing away with ad valorem taxes. We all know that that's the beginning of something more than just that. But the one that looks very attractive to them right now is the additional $100,000 ad valorem deduction on all property. That might be difficult to defeat in a referendum election, but, I mean, we can try to do that. Removing the ability for CRAs to exist. I mean, our riverfront is what it is today because it's a CRA. And if that goes away, it's going to be very difficult. The problem for us, even though they sunset CRAs in that piece of legislation in like 2035 or something like that, the problem is that starting in July, you can have no new projects within the CRA, which means we couldn't do anything new, like, for example, repair Hurricane Harbor as a CRA project. It really hurts us quite a bit on that. I would like to see if there's a consensus of council. Brian is really up on this stuff. He spends a lot of time following that maybe Brian can actually work with the mayor to have some letters sent under the mayor's signature to our delegation on some of these things without having to wait for them to come back to council for a meeting. The expediency is the important thing here. So Debbie Mayfield, for example, is on the committee hearing the CRA bill right now, I think. And so it might be appropriate, for example, for a letter to come out from Sebastian under our mayor's signatures, just explaining to her what impact that could have on the city. We won't be able, for example, to fix the problems we have in the working waterfront, which she's very aware of, and our legislative delegation may be involved in that. So I'd kind of see if there's a consensus council that Brian can work with the mayor to do some communications to members of the legislature from the city on some of these bills that are going to have a negative impact. I know he's working with the chief financial officer and trying to find out what's the impact, for example, if we have this $100,000 exemption. What those people need to hear up there is this is going to cost the city $25,000, and we're going to have to raise our ad valorem tax by this much. That's the kind of thing that needs to be said to them when we do this. Or this particular piece of legislation is going to stop us from fixing that building, which means that, like the Archie Smith Fish House down the road from there, a couple of years from now, we're going to condemn it and tear it down without fixing it because we can't do it if the CRA is not away with. So those kinds of things need to be in those letters, and I think Brian can do that. So I'm just looking to see if there's a consensus of council to allow that to happen.
Yes. Brian's a great
Brian,
way.
I haven't talked to you about this. I'm sorry, but
He's got nothing else to do.
Yeah, right.
Okay? Anything else, Mr. Dodd?
That's it. Thank you.
Mr. Jones?
No, sir.
I have nothing. Mr. Nunn?
You got to look at the hypocrisy of our state legislators sometimes. Let's force rollback and then take away $100,000 taxable value and not think, well, that's going to be interesting. How's that ever going to work? They'll put us bankrupt. They'll bankrupt the city. I don't know how else we would ever overcome those two things if they both got passed. I don't know. I can't even imagine or fathom. I hope it doesn't make it to voters, because voters think about, oh, I'm not going to have to pay property tax. Awesome, that's great. Not thinking about, well, that money's got to come from somewhere. So it's just crazy. Fight it best you can.
We'll ticket our way out of it. Ms. Dixon?
Oh, dear. Well, I have several things, but I'm going to start, number one, with some business. I would like to see if council could reconsider 11D O-25-06. I was under the impression that we were not looking to kill it altogether, but looking to tighten up the language.
I'm for.
You talking about
The addition, not the addition, the dwelling.
Okay,
Accessory dwelling.
I personally don't have a problem if they bring something back to us that kind of reflects Sebastian. It's kind of like what we said, I think, to one of the car wash guys. Bring us a car wash picture
Sorry,
that looks
thank
like
you.
Sebastian, not one that
Wrong
looks like
tab.
your He-Man.
Pendy,
Yeah.
yeah.
So I have no issue with that.
Okay.
So my real quick request on this is, what exactly are you give us some thoughts on what you want us to clean up.
Right, so for instance, one of the examples Mr. Dodd brought up was parking, and that was one thing that was going through my mind, is just because there's, you can park 4 cars in the driveway, how does that give someone independence if they're gonna have to knock on the front door and be like, hey, I need you to move your car? So just some more specific things that we can put in there, if this is truly why we're doing this, to, you know, help a family member in need perhaps, and make sure they do have independence, but make sure that there are some more protective matters in place, and make sure that we're not going to further junk up our streets and our homes, which also protects the neighbors and whatnot.
I'm laughing because this, to me, sounds like this is a workshop that we might need to do.
Yes,
Where we can informally
really
talk
could.
about this.
Can we procedurally do, so you have a motion to reconsider?
A motion to reconsider, we need to, I
And
think,
was there a
adjust some of the language.
And so you were a member of the prevailing vote on that?
I
so-
was.
So was there a second to your motion to reconsider?
Okay, now you know that means that it comes back as it was brought to us.
Yes, and then we have to amend things, right?
Well, you can give staff direction. So if you bring back that vote, if you have, so you have to have a second for your motion.
Sure.
And then if that vote prevails or succeeds, then the second matter would come back to you. The
Okay.
initial vote, and for any motions to approve or deny with conditions.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
I think.
And then you could bring it back for a second reading.
Okay.
For second reading
Thank
or first reading? when it
Well, you're
comes back?
reconsidering
We're
your vote on
reconsidering the
on
vote.
your first reading.
Yeah, so we'd have to vote on
So
the
you're
first
back
reading.
to the, if Kelly's motion, or Ms. Councilmember Dixon, sorry, my
okay.
apologies. If her motion has a second and it carries, then it brings the matter back to that point where you are all debating on it.
Right.
And you make a decision at that point. If you want to have further, you'll be at that point for reconsideration and discussion. And then if it prevails, then it would come back for second reading, and if it doesn't, then it dies.
I'll second her motion if she's making one.
Yes.
All right,
I already made the motion, I just needed my second, thank you. Mr. Nunn?
all right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Okay, 4-1.
So now we can discuss, now we'll discuss it,
The
and then we'll
language.
have to have another new motion.
Right.
Yes, that's
Because
correct.
my concern is, you know, talking about all that's going on in Tallahassee, and that they're not necessarily thinking about our city's best interests currently. I want us to have something in place that protects the city, protects our residents, so we don't just have random sheds popping up in people's backyards and calling them accessory dwellings. So how can that be adjusted in here?
So I do just want to clarify one thing, though. There currently is not a grandfather clause in
No, I
this bill.
understand, right.
And
So this may or may
therefore-
not work.
Yeah, if
Correct.
there happens to be one, that's why I wanted to kind of continue to move this forward.
Sure.
But, you know, I've heard, it's gone through 2 committees. I've listened to both of them. I've heard the comments back from legislators on it. They are touting it as an affordable housing bill.
Sure.
And so it does look like it will continue to advance. It'll be in a third and final committee. I'm expecting in the next 2 weeks, and then it'll go to the Senate floor.
So it may turn into the Wild West anyway.
What's the
but-
bill number?
That bill, I've got it right here. It is Senate Bill, and I don't have the House companion yet, but Senate Bill 184.
184, it's pretty low, so, yeah,
Yep.
it'll probably pass.
So parking requirements, and we can go back and see the, you know, some of the discussion that took place early in the meeting. We can check the video and kind of look at some things that we can clean up, and then we would bring, if, depending on your next motion and vote, it would potentially come back for a second reading.
Well, the motion to reconsider was on the vote on the first reading.
Correct.
So if I understand it right, then we have to reconsider the first reading and vote on that.
That's what we're doing now. We're
That's when
discussing.
we establish a second reading time.
Correct. That's what we're doing right now. We're discussing it now.
Okay, we're discussing it now, okay.
Yes.
I just don't have, I don't think there's enough time to provide feedback on what needs to change in that personally to vote on it. So I'm still gonna have to vote no, unless we can figure out a way to
Can we
give some time
table it?
and some feedback. I mean, I wouldn't have an issue with each of us sending to growth management
I
our
don't want it to
comments
die
for
tonight.
feedback, but
That's a
there's
great
not enough
idea.
time tonight to put that together.
I think that's an exceptional
Yeah,
idea.
you're always allowed to meet with staff.
what Mr.
All
Dodd,
right.
Councilmember
Right.
Dodd said.
So, I mean, based on, sorry, from a legal perspective, we've heard from council tonight concerns relating to lot sizes and
Parking.
Parking.
Septic.
I think that was all.
Septic.
Septic.
But that's not, that was during discussion about this. That's not, like, from my personal perspective, that's not me saying these are the things that I don't like about that.
No, but it
That
could
change.
be. There's
Okay,
how many
it-
lines on here?
Okay, so,
Well, council, it's your code. Ultimately, you have the ultimate say on it, so long as it doesn't violate the law, right, and could get challenged. You've already had a first reading on it. You can approve it or deny it with conditions, ultimately, and give staff direction on changes you'd like. And then at the second reading, you could potentially make changes, and then if we had to, bring it back for another reading, because it would need 2 readings on that.
Mr. Benton, can we ask the staff member involved if they have enough information for changes that are required? Is that appropriate, or?
Yeah, I mean, we can, I know our biggest thing is we can go back and check the video to see the full discussion. So, we can do that, and then we also, members can come visit us and continue to address and discuss with us prior to the second reading, on an individual basis.
You just can't discuss with each other.
Correct.
Right.
Right. Bernard? Lori?
And I apologize. I do have some samples. We have like some surveys of some properties that we have added ADUs. Will that help with tonight, or we definitely can go back to the meeting and tweak? I still wasn't clear, though, if you would rather us tweak the existing ordinance, or currently what we have in place is guest houses are allowed in certain zoning districts, and they're already set up as conditional uses. We can bring that back to you, that we allow those guest houses. We can call them accessory dwelling units instead, but they would be conditional uses, and add them into the RS10. Is that the direction, or you want us to take the ordinance that we have and kind of change some of the things that you
Mr.
concerned
Mayor,
about?
so would it be more appropriate for us to plan a workshop in between the 2 readings?
I think at this point, if we don't make decisions tonight to advance
think
to a
we need
second
to-
reading, we're gonna have to re-advertise anyway and bring
Yeah,
it
we're at
completely
the
back.
point we're supposed to be only having council discussion on that motion, where I think we're getting a little bit beyond, and I worry about us going too far beyond that.
Right, we're just looking at bringing it back the next time, then we can dissect it then with our input, and then bring it back probably for a second reading, and then if there's anything else we want to add in.
Correct? But we've had a motion to reconsider and it was approved.
Correct.
Therefore, we are now in the reconsideration.
Correct.
So we either need a motion to approve or deny as it was presented tonight.
With direction.
Correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So we're now back to where we were when we started the conversation.
Right. And I don't mean to extend the meeting, but because this was quasi-judicial.
No, it's quasi-legislative.
Quasi-legislative, okay. Like I say, staff has some samples to show you if that helps you, because it does affect the parking. If that was some of your questions, there were some drawings and examples that I can quickly show you. We can go through them fast, if that helps with your parking consideration.
Okay, sure.
I mean, yeah.
I just need to ask Emma if
Is that
if that's
okay?
I think doing what Dory's suggesting would go beyond the
Okay,
first
never mind.
reading. That's my
That's fine.
concern.
So
We can make adjustments.
So what are you suggesting that we are at liberty to do?
Right.
You're at liberty to give direction to staff and legal tonight to bring you back something that addresses your concerns as you laid them out during the public hearing.
Okay, and we do that in the form of a motion?
Yes, sir.
All right, then I move that, that we approve the document on the first reading and direct staff to modify it to use the guest housing, the current guest housing facility, to extend that in order to satisfy the requirement for accessory dwellings.
So then you're not, just to clarify your motion, you would not be approving any of the language in proposed
This one.
No,
A
yeah,
through.
what I'm asking in the motion is for them to come back to us at second reading with a definition of how they can use our current guest housing facility to satisfy the requirement.
Okay, so that's your motion.
Yes.
So it's still an ADU, it's
Yeah, it's
just,
still an
you're
accessory
trying to
dwelling
use
unit,
what we have set
but
up to
it doesn't
work that.
include all this other stuff in here that says that they can do it on a 1.61 acre lot. It just says, we're going to set up a conditional use of guest housing within these things, and here's the conditions under which they can do a guest housing.
Which is actually on page 77. It's already in that ordinance. We were showing as deleting it, but if you wanted to see what it is, it's on page 77.
I just assume the staff bring it back to us
Sure.
after they do their research, yeah, as opposed to us getting into a lot of details.
And that gives us all the opportunity individually
Yes.
to speak with the department and Brian.
But just so you're all clear, everybody understands that you're not making any of the changes other than you're going back to the guest house and you're making changes to that, which really wasn't heard on a first reading. I think you may have to start over. Alex?
I don't think that was what he said,
No,
Madam
I think
Attorney.
no?
He said he wanted to use the basic setup that we have for guest housing for
Which
the ADU.
I basically want, yeah, what my motion is that they redo this ordinance so that they use the current guest housing capability to satisfy the requirement for defining an accessory dwelling unit, not all this other stuff.
Which is on page 6, what you're talking about.
Yes.
Page 6 of the, sorry, 77.
Okay, if I have to be clearer, then I'll withdraw my motion and I'll rephrase it. Okay?
Thank you.
My motion is that, let me find number 6. All right. My motion is that we, God, I hate to have to write this thing on the fly. All right, my motion is that we remove all the changes on page 2, page 3, page 4, page 5, and that we re-include the guest housing changes, and that we include moving guest housing to being a accessory dwelling, to being a conditional use in RS 10 and RM 8, and that the conditions that the staff determines to be appropriate be included in the ordinance.
Is that one okay,
No.
Madam Attorney, or no?
No, I think
No.
at that point, you've gone beyond what was heard at the planning board and also what was presented tonight at the public hearing. And I think if you go that direction, that's your pleasure. But I believe legally that would have to go back through the process.
All right, was that a motion?
That was a motion.
Okay, so does he have a second? So does.
So that's essentially a denial.
How do we get back to just bring it tighten up back here?
That would be,
So we just, we have to
if I
pass
might
this
help
motion.
So does
provide
that
any
motion fail?
assistance. Yeah, well, that was a motion. Was there a second?
No.
Okay.
Then I would like to make a motion that we bring back ordinance 0-25-06 for a second reading on April 9th, that staff looks at and listens to the current meeting discussion and other changes that were suggested and recommended, and maybe have individual discussions with the council members on their own about what they would like to see changed, and we can discuss that on the second reading. Is that good?
That would meet the essential requirements to bring this back without needing to go back to planning board.
Okay.
Yes.
Second.
All right.
You got it.
Okay, let's go.
Anyone from the public wish to speak on this motion? All right, roll call.
Councilmember Dixon?
Yes.
Councilmember Dodd?
No.
Councilmember Nunn?
Yes.
Mayor McPartlin?
Yes.
And Vice Mayor Jones?
Yes.
Okay, motion carries.
All right, good luck in what you got to do. All right, anything else? Ms.
Yes, I'm
Dixon?
sorry. So I just wanted to, because I forgot, I think we both did last time, I wanted to give a shout out to everyone involved in Little League this spring. We were both at their opening day and they had a huge turnout and some very, very excited volunteers and children. And I just wish them a successful season. And thank you to Parks and Rec. They were shouting your praises for all you have done for their fields and everything out there. So.
Don't forget, I was there too, so.
Yeah, I was
Yes, that's right. I'm so sorry.
Okay.
It has been a long 3 weeks. You're right. You were.
Yeah.
And you were fabulous and the kids love you. And little Luke did the national anthem and it was perfect. It was so great. And thank you to SPD for the RAD women's class. I know a few of us in here in the room took that class and it was awesome. And I highly, highly, highly recommend it to the women in Sebastian next time they have a class. I think they're going to be offering them more, the Sheriff's Office, Vero Beach, and Sebastian. So definitely do one of those. And also just commenting on what Mr. Nunn said earlier on, because I know I'm going to get hate emails this week, because they love to pull the mom card on me, that I don't care about kids, and I'm a mom, and how dare I not want to do something about the speed limit. And I just wanted to say, I always brought my children to the park. We rode bikes as a family, and my children never played in the street. So I also hate getting run off the roads, and I hate when people fly by my house. It happens. But policing will help, and we have to parent. We can't hang out in the street and play. We move for cars, and we're vigilant. So it's a touchy situation here, but we can't rule on emotions. Thank you.
Anything else? That's it. Being no further business, we're adjourned.